Target 8.1, I can determine the formula mass and molar mass of a given compound when given the name or formula. Atomic mass is the mass of one atom measured in atomic mass units. You can find the atomic mass, and we often call this the weighted atomic mass. It is the decimal number on the periodic table. Sometimes it's at the top, sometimes it's in the corner, sometimes it's at the bottom. We're not talking about this number. This is the atomic number, and it tells you the number of protons. We're talking about this number. This tells us the mass in atomic mass units of one atom of that element. For example, phosphorus. One phosphorus atom has a mass of 30.97 AMU, atomic mass units. So for example, if we wanted to find the formula mass or formula weight of phosphorus trichloride, we would look at the subscripts. Phosphorus does not have a subscript, therefore 1 is understood. So we understand that we have one phosphorus atom. So one phosphorus atom, we multiply that by the atomic mass on the periodic table for phosphorus, 31. We look at the subscript for chlorine and we say that it's a 3. So we multiply 3 times the atomic mass for chlorine, which is 35.5. We multiply across, and then we add, and we get 137.5. That tells us that the formula mass, or the formula weight, of phosphorus trichloride is 137.5 atomic mass units. Okay, next I'm going to introduce molar mass, which is also part of our target. But in order to introduce molar mass, we have to talk about the definition of the mole first. The mole is a way of counting atoms. Just like a dozen, if I say a dozen, you think 12. Well, if you hear the word mole in chemistry, you should think 6.02 times 10 to the 23rd. The standard definition is the mole is the amount of substance that contains the same number of particles as contained in exactly 12 grams of carbon-12. And that number is 6.02 times 10 to the 23rd. It's also known as Avogadro's number. Now, if you are talking about an element, if you have 1 mole of an element, that means you have 6.02 times 10 to the 23rd atoms, because atoms are the particles that make up elements. If you're talking about a covalent compound, if you have 1 mole of a covalent compound, then you have 6.02 times 10 to the 23rd molecules of that substance, because molecules are what make up covalent substances. If you're talking about an ionic compound, you have 1 mole of an ionic compound, then you have 6.02 times 10 to the 23rd formula units of that substance, because ionic compounds do not contain molecules. The formula of an ionic compound just gives you the smallest whole number ratio of one ion to another ion in the compound. So all of these 3 words, atoms, molecules, formula units, all of them will refer to as particles. 1 mole of anything has 6.02 times 10 to the 23rd particles, either atoms, molecules, or formula units. Now, how and why are atomic mass and molar mass related? They are numerically the same. You find the molar mass and the atomic mass exactly the same way. You get it from the periodic table. What is the difference? The unit. The mass of one oxygen atom is 15.9 atomic mass units. The mass of 1 mole of oxygen atoms is equal to 15.9 grams. So it's all in what you call it. Now, why is this so? Because the way they defined atomic mass unit relative to the carbon-12 atom, they also based the definition of a mole off of the carbon-12 atom. So these numbers are all relative to the carbon-12 atom. So because the AMU is defined using the carbon-12 atom also, this makes the average atomic mass of each element also equal to the mass in grams of 1 mole of each element. For example, 1 mole of calcium atoms is equal to 6.02 times 10 to the 23rd calcium atoms. By definition, 1 mole of anything is that number. But we can find the mass of 1 mole of calcium atoms from the periodic table. If you look at calcium, you'll see 40 grams underneath it. That is called the molar mass of calcium, the mass of 1 mole of calcium. So calcium, 1 mole of calcium has a mass of 40 grams and contains 6.02 times 10 to the 23rd calcium atoms. That's an important concept to understand. Element. The molar mass of any element can be found on the periodic table. For example, potassium has a molar mass of 39.1 grams. I get that from the periodic table. If you want the molar mass of a formula, you just add up the weight of the formula. Like for instance, water. A water molecule has 2 hydrogen atoms and 1 oxygen atom. So I'll just multiply 2 hydrogen by 1 gram. That comes from the periodic table under hydrogen. 1 oxygen by 16 grams, again from the periodic table for oxygen. Multiply across and add, and I will get that the molar mass of water is 18 grams. That means that 1 mole of water has a mass of 18 grams. It also contains 6.02 times 10 to the 23rd molecules.